Hi, this is Chai. Welcome to part 3 of our presentation on AWS versus Azure, which we did at eClub in July 2015. This one is going to be talking about workload placements. Where do you want to put your servers for high availability, particularly? A little bit about continuous delivery, and then price, the all-important discussion on price. I hope you find it very interesting. We obviously provide these comparisons because we're able to launch your infrastructure into either of those or multiple clouds with flexibility and some governance and control. So we want to provide cloud migration and cloud flexibility. So if you need any of those, give us a call, and I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Amazon has about 11 regions across the globe, and each geographical region has a minimum of 2 availability zones. You've got Oregon, I think it says about 5 regional zones, if you do that. Placement group performance, not HA. So like I mentioned, each region has an availability zone, and the design around that really is just to be able to take into consideration. Amazon's definitely philosophy anyway is to reduce latency, to be able to say, I want to be able to replicate. I don't want any latencies. I don't want to have packet drops. I don't want to have any issues. And so they'll be able to put them together and increase high availability if you need to get down to path of performance.
Okay, so Azure has the concept of availability sets. We strongly recommend wherever you get the choice, you use the availability set, but you don't have to. So there's a couple of explanations. They have a concept called a fault domain. I know it's a domain that's meant to fail. It's not like that. Think of it as a rack, and one rack with PDUs is one fault domain. The other one is the second fault domain. So you want to have your web service in 2 fault domains so they don't fail. So you want to have the same infrastructure in 2 fault domains. What happens is you get what's called an update domain. So Azure will say this left-hand side is going to be the update domain, and this right-hand side is the fault domain. So if you want to do a patch, right, you only patch the infrastructure 1 for the planned environment, and this one stays up, and then you do the other round. So they always keep one up. So you always get one that's always available in a planned outage. In an unplanned outage, you got 2 of them anyway. So that's how they try to cover all of those. So you always use availability sets. That's what we recommend. You'll find there's a discussion going back from quite a while, from 2008 up to about a couple of years ago, about affinity groups. That's an old concept where they had multiple data centers, where they had basically a cage of storage, a cage of compute, a cage of network, and you had to build an affinity group. That's gone. That's old architecture. Very similar in terms of placement groups. They're old architectures. Stay away from them. This is where you want to be, is availability zones and availability sets.
Yeah. Continuous delivery. I think we all agree that if you have in your title or your job description in LinkedIn called DevOps, you are going to get emails, you're going to get phone calls through LinkedIn, because that is the buzzword at the moment. Everything is all about code. They're teaching it in school. Amazon recognises that, and we've been recognising it from pretty much day one. Code deploy, that's really just the ability to push code across your instances. One would be Go. Code commit, and that's basically just to verify your code, is it good, is it bad? Change management. And then you got your code pipeline, and that's just your test. Is my code working? Is it going to break something? I'm going to push it through code pipeline to be able to run through that test and then use code commit to be able to say, keep the track changes rather than using the likes of public GitHub to do that. And it becomes your own private environment so people can't access it. And then, it's all working fine, it's good. Yep, let's do version control of it. Now let's deploy it to my EC2 or my application, and let's get it rolling. So it gives you the ability to granular control of versions, commits, and pushing out in one location.
Yeah, and I think Microsoft has the same concept. They obviously built their empire on developers writing applications on Windows, and they've continued that on into Azure with Virtual Studio Online and Team Foundation. The thing with them really is, for both of these organizations, it's about control of the developers. And instead of going out to the public and getting GitHub and Puppet and Chef and Jenkins, they say, oh no, it's all here, it's all in the cloud, and it's all part of your environment that we give you, just stay here. That's what they're trying to do. So, and there are advantages to that, and there are disadvantages, and obviously you have to weigh those out, but those options are available.
Yeah, I think all these services are really bound to be able to lock you in. because you're using platform as a service, software as a service, and not two clouds will be able to have the same functionality or the same, even though they're similar, it's not easy to be able to transfer it across.
Dollars, pricing.
Amazon has probably about 3, I suppose, different tiers of pricing. So you're talking about on-demand pricing, which is you pay as you go. It's a higher price because you don't know if you're doing a bit of a test and you power up a machine and you run it for X period of time, and it's calculated in an hour, and if you can terminate it and you only pay for that period of time. Yes, it is a higher rate, but at the same time, you're building an infrastructure to be able to test huge amount of workloads. Probably be cheaper to run it in Amazon. You can get a free tier. There are smaller workloads, and you have that running for what Amazon calls it a credit. You have run X period of time through that month, and if you stay within that sort of realm, then you get it free. As mentioned, per hour, no charge for stop. So if you stop the instance, an example is EC2, if you stop it, you're not going to get charged for it because you're not consuming compute. But what you will get charged for is the data. So the data is an EBS, say it's an S3, then you will get charged because you're using that. But for compute, you stop it, you're not going to get charged for it. The next one is obviously reserved instances. So reserved instances, pretty much, I know what my workload's going to be. I know what I need to buy from an EC2. I need an M3, and I'm going to run it for about 2 years because I require an M3 large because it requires a compute or CPU. Well, you can buy that and pay that in advance and say, I will commit myself for 1 year, and as a reward, or as Amazon recognises that, they're going to give you a discount for that because you're paying up front and you're committing yourself to be able to full contract. Reserve instances, we talked about that. Spot instances. Spot instances pretty much, it's a funny kind of environment. So you look at this bell curve, and inside the bell it's a consumed. So there's customers using that. Outside, there's graphs. It's available to the public. Well, it's not being consumed. So what they do is like, you know what? Let's have an auction. Let's say if you want to use that environment, you can bid for it. So you go in the line, spot, and you say, I want to be able to, I'm going to pay 3 cents an hour for it, and you're the highest bidder. Well, you get better consume that. And the savings is huge. And so you spin up this amount of EC2s, you can do whatever you need to do. But the problem with that is, if somebody comes in and bids and puts in a high bid or puts in a high auction, you're going to lose that. Previously, you just terminate. But Amazon recognises that, and it's an issue, so they give you 2 minutes warning for it. It's like I said, it's not designed to run your production environment, but it is designed to run a certain workload where you're doing analytics and all that behind it too. There's different pricing mechanisms. They do through credit cards, but if you also pay a certain amount, you're also going to get invoices through Amazon too.
Okay, we've just been told we have to get going a little bit faster. Yeah, so you're talking too long is what he's saying. We also have a free tier.
We have more features, that's probably why.
We also charge by the minute as opposed to by the hour. So if you bring it up for a minute, they'll charge you for an hour. We charge you per minute. There is a warning right here. There's 2 stops in a virtual machine in Azure. If you stop it and it's still allocated, you're paying for the compute as well as the storage. If you stop it and you deallocate, you don't pay for the compute. You only pay for the storage, obviously, because you want to keep the machine going. You can buy your accounts by prepay through resellers, through an enterprise agreement. If you have some enterprise agreements, you can negotiate with them. You do pay up front for the enterprise agreements. They're changing the licensing components all the time. We can't keep up. There are people who are specifically certified on licensing. It's crazy. So I have to call them and go, do I do this or that? That's what happens. So the billing for overusage there is an overusage for enterprise agreements, basically. MSDN is free. You can also buy a BizPack. There's a couple of notes I've made here that I want to read out to you. A couple of weeks ago, you may have noticed that Azure made an announcement about pricing increases, and they're the first of the cloud vendors to ever do that, whereas every 2 years you would get about 6 discounts from AWS. At some point, discounting has got to stop. Once they've reached saturation point, they've got to get their money back somehow. That price increase, if you happen to be in the Eurozone, the increase went up by 13%. If you happen to be in sunny Australia, your price increase went up by 26%. Oh, sorry, that was after the Australia tax already higher price. Just thought I'd multiply that out for you. A note was made in Forbes magazine, which I thought was very interesting. I know we're going a bit longer than I thought we would have here, but at some point this has got to stop. They reckon that SoftLayer is going to review their pricing very soon. Not a quote from me, but go to Forbes magazine. At the moment, SoftLayer, or previously, SoftLayer, you would be charged $35 for 5 terabytes of outbound bandwidth. Awesome, comes with it. Recently, they've changed their pricing. That rate is now still $35, but instead of getting 5 terabytes, you get 250 gigs. Oh. Yeah, I know. Read the fine print. So there you go. My warning. Next.